Well, we thought that the first session on day two of this second test was going to be an important one to decide the course of the test match. And it was a fascinating one. And one that England would enjoy. 4 wickets for 70 runs. That takes India from 276 for three, which is where they were at stumps last evening, to 346 for seven. KL Rahul dismissed early. Ajinkya Rahane dismissed early. Rishabh Pant entertained as he tends to. But we look back at it all on ESPN Cricket for Matchday with Stephen Harmison and VVS Laxman, who, of course, I'm delighted to see her joining me in red. Wonderful cause, of course. We wear red for Ruth today, for the Ruth Strauss Foundation, which does such wonderful work, and in memory, of course, of Andrew Strauss's late wife. So, gentlemen, excellent. We're all ready. Let's talk about the cricket. First up, Steve, that's a good morning for England.
That is a good morning for us, for England. Started well. Robinson looked very, very stiff this morning. He looked as though he's obviously inexperienced bowler, has not played a great deal of Test match cricket, and he looked like that this morning. First couple of balls, I think, managed to get to about 76 mile an hour. And KL Rahul possibly been done for lack of pace after working so hard. He's chipped one straight to, I think, Dom Sibley. So a good start for England. And I think England grew into the session and got better and better. It was a beauty by Jimmy Anderson, Rahane. Again, a bit like Pujara, and I'm sure VVS will say the same thing as he did with Pujara. I thought he had to play it because of the angle that Jimmy Anderson brings into play because of the great wrist position and the swing that he has. But it looks as though he probably could have left it. But I think Jimmy Anderson drags people into playing, especially at Lords. So good session for England. We're all rare and red. And it's a good job, I must admit, VVS. It's a good job that we didn't have a show before start of play, because I think you'd have been on your own. Because when Sam and Luca and Sir Andrew walking around the ground, there was a tear in my eye and my family's eye watching the boys, because it's an amazing sight, Lords, today.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Steve. I think that's the beauty of this great game. Even though we all play and represent different countries, but everyone are part of a family. The cricket fraternity comes together whenever such wonderful initiatives takes place. I remember Glenn McGrath lost his wife, and everyone supports him whenever the test match happens in Sydney. And it's the same with Andrew Strauss' wife. And such a young family, I'm sure the kind of distraught and the kind of trauma they all must have gone through. But it's great to see the kind of support both these legendary players get in memory of their loved one. And also, I think the cause itself is such a wonderful cause, such a noble cause. So it's great to see everyone coming together, the entire cricketing fraternity supporting these two noble initiatives by McGrath and then Andrew Strauss.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It doesn't matter how intense the rivalry on the field is. This goes beyond that. This is the beauty of sport. It's the beauty of our game as well. And of course, the Ruth Strauss Foundation does such wonderful work for those that have family members that are those that cricketers have come together. We're loving the cricket that we're watching at Lords, and now let's try and make sense of the first 10 minutes. Lakshman, no one better than you to talk about what happens after you've batted an entire day and the next morning you go again and you think you want to pick off, and suddenly what happens? KL Rahul was just perhaps still a bit sore after day one.
Well, I don't think he was sore, but you could make out that the ball was quite slow. And as Steve rightly mentioned, that it was almost like a loosener. He capitalized on the first one, and then the second one. I just felt that because of the slowness in the delivery, the speed was much, much less than what you expect from a bowler of the caliber of Robinson at the start of the day. And I just feel that because his right leg collapsed, that's why he was not able to control the drive. The drive was uppish, and it was a big, big moment in this test match, because we were expecting him to convert this 100 into a big 100 or probably a double 100. You saw the kind of discipline he showed even after getting that 100 last night when England took the second new ball. And that's sometimes the nature of the game. You really bowl well. You hit those line and lengths, you bowl your heart out and you don't get the rewards, and suddenly on one fine morning you get a batsman not with the best ball you bowl in the match. But the kind of start India definitely didn't want, and I think England will be really pleased to see the back of KL Rahul.
And they saw the back of Ajinkya Rahane soon after. In 7 balls, India lost both overnight batters. Now, Rahane has triggered a bit of a discussion on social media, and it looks like a Rahane who that Melbourne 100 is a long time back, Lakshman, and it's a pattern that you've seen with Rahane. He scores this fine knock in a series-defining or match-winning effort, and then suddenly he just goes missing. With Pujara, you've observed there's a technique perhaps that he's getting out the same way. With Rahane, I wonder if there is something that you've observed on what triggers this string of poor scores or low scores from Rahane. Just what do you make of it, VVS?
I think a mixture of a technical issue and also eagerness to score. Eagerness to score because you know that you've got a string of low scores behind you. We saw that even in Nottingham in the first innings, the way he was restless till the time he was there on the crease, and then he got run out. There was a missed run out chance even before that. And even today, you saw very, very tentative footwork. And whenever you're indecisive, whenever you're trying to look at the outcome, you're always reaching out towards the ball, especially when you're not high in confidence. And that's exactly what has happened in Rahane's case. And like Pujara, I think both Rahane and Pujara will be disappointed that they're repeating the same mistakes, which has led to their dismissal over the last 6 to 8 months. You saw Rahane get out in Australia, very similar fashion. You talk about Adelaide, you talk about Brisbane, very similar fashion. And even in this test match, you saw him being very tentative. And if you see the replay very closely, I thought he was late onto the ball because his front foot and his front feet, the left foot was still in the air. It was not planted. That's why there is no transfer of body weight. And once you don't have the transfer of body weight, once you don't take that good front foot strike, you're always playing besides your body, which means that you're always reaching out towards the ball, which is what led to the dismissal of Pujara yesterday, and it's the same with Rahane today. I just hope, Raunak, just to add
Yeah.
to these two things, I just hope that the outside noise, I'm hoping that it's not playing in the minds of Pujara and Rahane. Because when someone is experienced, people think that experienced players can handle that pressure. But with experience, I can say that probably the pressure is a lot more on established players because they're youngsters who are wanting to take their spot. You always have to fulfill your own expectations, the kind of responsibility you have on your shoulders. And every low score, every failure will just add to that pressure. And I just hope that's not playing in the minds of both Pujara and Rahane.
No, fair enough. Sorry, Steve. Just if you allow me one more question to Lakshman, I'll come to you then. But when we're talking about experience, that's 76 tests now for Rahane. And
Yeah.
when you say there's an eagerness to score, don't you think, Lakshman, these are things we tend to associate with lesser experienced batters? Isn't it fair to expect a lot more from Rahane with sort of the stature and the vice captaincy and the 75 plus test experience that he has?
Yeah, especially at the start of the series, I can understand that he's got a string of low scores, and you're having this kind of body language or this kind of approach probably in the fourth or fifth test match. But at the start of the series, you don't expect someone to be so tentative, like the way Rahane has been in Nottingham and also today. So I think that's something which doesn't do justice to kind of talent he has and the kind of experience he has at the highest level. I mean, he's a batsman who has performed when the conditions are tough for the Indian batsman and also when the situation is tough for the Indian batsman. I mean, 2014 on the very same ground at Lords when the situation was terrible, he went on to score a brilliant 100. Recently, when India won the series in Melbourne, it was Rahane who captained the side brilliantly and also got that match-winning 100. He got runs in South Africa on minefields or tough batting conditions. So somewhere deep down, I think the pressure of not translating that potential into performance is letting him down, and that's something which should not happen, especially at the start of the series. Because at the start of the series, you're going with a positive mindset, wanting to stay in the present, not really looking back at the failures. Because there's no doubt that Pujara and Rahane haven't done justice to their talent, and their
Yeah.
performances don't really convey the kind of potential both these batsmen have.
It's one that I find harder, Steve, to try and make sense of from a cricketing view, because you think of players like Sean Marsh or Asad Shafiq of Pakistan, who all played a serious number of tests, scored hundreds, look like that they were $1 million if you watch them, and then suddenly there's just without any explanation the form just goes away. Can you make sense of it?
Not really. It seems as though Rahani's like a firefighter. If the chips are down and things are struggling, he tends to bail India out of trouble. There's plenty of people like that who've played the game around the world in history where you think if they go in at 350 for two or 350 for three teams in a good place and moving forward, they'll nick one early. But if the team are 40 for four, they'll back. There's a steely determination to rebuild and go again, and that's what happened to Rahane in Australia. He's a fine player, a fantastic player, and it's just like Vivier said, you just hope the noise is not getting too much to him between his ears, because if it does, then all of a sudden, not only are you battling yourself and you're letting other outside influences come in, then you really are in a struggle. And I think talked about it yesterday with Pajara. You've got to be careful when you talk about leaving players of the caliber of Pajara and Rahane out, because you're not leaving them out to maybe go away school runs and come back. You're arguably ending their Test match career. And I think, can you afford to do that with two great players when you've got a five-man top order? If you take Pant out of it, with your wicketkeeper, it's concerning, I would think, for India. And it's one that they'll need to address very, very quickly and very delicately going forward.
Well, in fairness, we could perhaps hold on. They've had 2 innings in this tour. It's a long tour, but I have a feeling we'll have this discussion again at some point. So let's maybe get more deep into it when we get the numbers out for you too. And of course, Virat Kohli's lack of runs in recent times doesn't help. It only amplifies the issue. So that puts perhaps a little more of the spotlight on the likes of Rane and Pujara. We'll come back to that in a bit, but let's move on. Rishabh Pant. That was entertaining. We've seen it last for a lot longer, Steve. I wonder what you make of it. I mean, I have the time now to sit and talk to you as a fast bowler, former fast bowler who watches Pant do this. We've been watching it for a couple of years now. What do you make of it?
It's not only is it entertaining, it's enthralling for the crowd. But I must admit, if I was Ravi Jadeja sitting at number 7, watching Pant go, and I think I'm having 2 innings. I'm going again. I'm here again. Here we go again. The way he's running down the wicket, and you must have to. And actually, to be fair, Ravindra Jadeja is actually not a bad character to have at number 7, because he seems to be a very, very calm and influence. It was a bit like somebody batting behind Nasser Hussain in England all them years ago, with the way he just sort of curtain railed his outside edge, and you're sitting there waiting behind him, thinking, has he nicked it? Has he not? Am I going in? It just seems as anything could happen with Pant. I actually thought he came hard at England early, put England on the back foot a little bit, and then he seemed to not go on his shell. I just think he seemed to sort of started being a little bit more measured than what he normally would be. And I think having Jadeja at the other end, just to calm him influence, just to calm him down a little bit, they put on a nice little partnership there. And England were just starting to sort of go onto the back foot after having a good start this morning. But one thing you can't say, it's not bowling watching Rishabh Pant, whether he's got the wicket-keeping gloves on or whether he's got the bat in the hand. He's box office, Test match need him, and England got him out just at the right time, I think.
I remember speaking extensively on our coverage on ESPN Cricket for Matchday Laxman during the Australia series with Sanjay Manjrekar, with Michael Hussey, Tom Moody, and then during the home series in England with Ian Bell. And there seemed to be a consensus that it's not actually reckless, even though you may look at it as thinking, it seems reckless. There seems to be a balance of caution and aggression from Pant. Are you seeing that now as well, or are you this premeditation? I'm listening to Michael Holding on commentary. I don't think he's a big fan of Pant's approach, but are you seeing that balance maintained in this short innings as well? Or are you thinking it's tilting a little bit?
Well, firstly, I feel credit to the team management, because players like Rishabh Pant, players like Virender Sehwag, they require the backing of the team management, because one or times you will be really disappointed at the way they get out. But as long as they play match-winning knock and as long as they play their natural game, there's more chances of them performing and playing to their potential. And if you remember the 2 Test matches we saw in New Zealand, Pant didn't know how to get a single run, because he was in a dilemma whether to step out on those seaming tracks or just defend. And defending the deliveries or leaving the ball outside the off stump doesn't come naturally to him. He's a very positive and an aggressive batsman. So I think credit to the team management that at least they've given him the license to go out and express himself. Now, I agree with Sanjay or Bell or Mike Hussey, because I just feel that it's not reckless. The way he got out in the World Test Championship final was reckless. But what we saw in Nottingham, what we saw even today, was not reckless. There is a method to that madness. He knew Jimmy Anderson was going to pitch the ball up. He's not going to bowl bouncers. And to disrupt the length of Jimmy Anderson, he had to use his feet, because there were times when he stepped out, but he didn't play a shot. He also was ready to leave the ball, and that's something which tells to me that he's planning how to play every bowler. His approach to Jimmy Anderson was different. His approach to Mark Wood was different. And deep down, I feel that he's a very mature cricketer, and he knows what is his plan, and he backs that plan. For me, the most important thing is he's backing himself to play that shot. Yes, he got out, but that was a delivery which required to be punished. He didn't execute that shot properly. So I feel that as long as Rishabh Pant plays in this fashion, now imagine he's playing a subdued knock, and suddenly you have three slips, gully, a short leg, a silly mid off, a mid on. Then the game itself is really compressed for the Indian team. But when he was there on the crease, there was a long off, there was a deep square leg. Suddenly the field spread, it becomes easy, even though England got those two quick wickets, and that's what players like Rishabh Pant, players like Virendra Sehwag can do to the morale of the opposition bowlers, because they've got the ability to hit even good deliveries for boundaries.
This innings in particular, Steve, how much do you sort of give it credit for the impact that it may have possibly had? He still ended up getting 37, and he's taken the team with two quick wickets, gone from 280 to 5 to 330 in no time. Suddenly, we're looking at a score closer to 350 than the potential of getting into the tail and even getting India for less than 300. Do these 30s and 40s make a bigger difference than what the scorecard might tell at times?
Yeah, yes and no. We've got to remember he's batting number six, and you're number six.
Yeah.
You should be looking to. That's why I said after the first Test match, I'd be quite keen on somehow trying to get him at number seven, because quick 30s and 40s at number seven take a game away from a team, and that's what Adam Gilchrist did. I know Adam Gilchrist got hundreds, and that's the objective of Pant as he gets more experience and he gets a bit older. But in the context of this game, the way he hung around and put England on the back foot after the confidence of the first sort of 10, 15 minutes, it was a good counteractive punch. And that is what is the beauty about Pant. And the good thing that he brings to the table is that he stops bowlers trying to chase and get wickets. He just tries to get bowlers then have to stop when he gets going. Bowlers then have to try and stop him from scoring. There's a completely different mindset with that, because a bowler's gone from 15 minutes thinking, right, I'm going to run to the tail here, to actually, well, he's on the back foot. The bowler's thinking a little bit more negatively, but also still feeling as though he can have a chance. I just think again, we've got the problem the same with Josh Buttler. How does Josh Buttler play? Josh Buttler, for me, I criticise Josh Buttler because he hasn't got the volume of runs he should have, because of the talent he's got. But I think Josh Buttler tries to be a Test match player with the one-day talent he has. I don't think he maximises everything he's got. The one thing about Pant is he has a clear and obvious plan in his own mind, and he's the only one that counts. And when he goes out to bat, he has got an understanding of what he's trying to do. Forget about anybody else. As long as the subject has the clear and plan that he goes out to bat, then he's got a chance of succeeding. But 30s and 40s at number six in a Test order probably isn't enough, especially with, we talk about the last 18 months. I think India's middle order, 3-4-5, averaging 27.7, which is second worst behind West Indies. At number six, if your number six is only getting 30s and 40s, boy, you're not going to have the volume of runs you need to win Test matches.
That's interesting. Laxman, you know better than anyone what those positions entail. Looking at Jadeja's current form and approach, and of course what Pant offers, would you be tempted to make that change for this series? Just that one small change, Jadeja 6 and Pant 7, or would you keep it as it is?
No, I would keep it as it is, except if England is taking the second new ball. We discussed the other day also that
Yes.
if England is taking the second new ball, the way Jadeja, I mean, another exhibition of great determination and also to control his instincts. Because Jadeja can also use a long handle. We've seen him in Nottingham, we've seen him in T20 format or one days, how he steps out and hits the fast bowlers out of the park. He's got that game as well. But he understands that to be successful and to be consistent at Test match level against quality fast bowlers, it's important for him to know where his off stump is. It's important to have good feet movement and also to occupy the crease. And once he bats with the tailenders, then obviously he changes his gear and he plays those aggressive shots. But I just feel that if the second new ball is not taken, then Rishabh Pant is a very dangerous batsman, and you don't want to tinker with batting order of batsmen quite frequently. Because everyone should understand their role, and I think Rishabh Pant is more than capable batsman to perform at number six. We've seen some match-winning knocks. Brisbane is an example. Ahmedabad is an example. Chennai is an example. Yes, he didn't get or he didn't convert those 20s and 30s in the two test matches so far, but he looked comfortable till the time he was on the crease. And you could see, I wouldn't say the England bowlers were scared, but the England bowlers were apprehensive. And in fact, they know how dangerous he can be if he spends more time on the wicket. So I wouldn't tinker with the batting order frequently, but I think Vijay can if the second new ball is taken.
Yeah, we've actually discussed this to detail on ESPN Cricket for Run Order. Steve Harmison and VVS Laxman were on that. It's about Jadeja and his prowess as an all-rounder in Test cricket. So go have a look there. It's already up on the site as well as on YouTube. So make sure you enjoy that for the detailed chat we put out for Jadeja. Then, right. Let's just look ahead now. 346 for seven. You think India's innings will come to an end at some point in this next session? In isolation, Steve, how good a score is 350? How good is it 318? Or at what point does it become a above par, a formidable score, or is it already there?
Lately, and 350 might be enough to get England out twice. But that's only in jest, I must admit, the way things have gone. But it's a good score. Yeah, a good score. I think gone are the days of you needing 450, 500 and above first innings to win a test match. Because I think the standard of ball has got relatively closer. I think this pitch is still a good pitch, and it looks as though it's got a little bit faster, a little bit quicker, which I think will suit the batsmen, the ball coming on, especially the batsmen that like to score. So I think if England can bowl India out for 375, I think both teams will be. India will feel as though yes, we've got scorers in the game, and England after the start that Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul got, I think England will be pretty pleased with the efforts of being back into the Test match and put the ball back into India's court. But then the hard work starts from an England point of view to then go down and actually try and get up to India or go past India, which I think they'll need to do in this Test match because I think there's going to be a bit of turn with the slope later on. So all in all, I think the game is evenly balanced at this moment in time. I think it's
Okay.
nicely poised. And I think if England can come out and get a couple of quick wickets and bowl India out for in and around 375, I think both teams will be relatively happy going into the end of the first innings.
Lakshman, your thoughts? Do you agree with that? India would be already happy with this sort of score?
Well, I think anything above 350, 375 is a good first inning score. But having said that, I feel that India will be disappointed because
Hmm.
after the kind of start KL Rahul and Rohit Sharma have given, top of the order, suddenly you saw the collapse. Virat Kohli gets out last evening before the close of the day's play, and then suddenly India loses Ajinkya Rahane and KL Rahul this morning. So three quick wickets. It happened in Nottingham, where India lost four wickets, four quick wickets just for 15 runs. And they're allowing the opposition team to come back into the game, which is not a great thing to do. And India, being the champion side they are, they don't want to repeat the mistakes. So I just feel that India will be disappointed because it was a great opportunity to post 400, 450 or more, and also for a couple of batsmen, to have got to a big half century or maybe even 100. So I think India will be disappointed, and England will be really pleased the way the bowlers pulled back the game this morning.
All right, VVS Lakshman, Steve Harmison. This has been a fascinating session as this test match moves on. It's moving on quite quickly. It's only day two, but we should have a great conversation on T as well at T on ESPN Cricket for Match Day. So we'll join Steve and VVS then. So do join us to see where this game stands on day two.